When we think of commercial property investment, we tend to think of city and West End offices or top-end retail, both traditional and modern. But there's more to commercial property than that. Less glamorous but no less interesting for investors is multi-let industrial estates, trading estates close to major motorways that are home to many of Britain's thriving small and medium-sized businesses. Henderson Global Investors, one of Britain's largest property investment groups, recently held a breakfast seminar to explain the opportunities in the sector, where it is launching a new fund investing in multi-let industrial estates. The audience of family offices and institutional investors first heard from industry veteran Christopher Jonas, who set the scene by looking at how property yields have diverged from gilt returns in recent years.
Over 30 years, there's been a give or take a 400 basis point premium between the return on index linked and the initial yield on property. Property has been 400 basis points above the return on index linked. And since 2008, that 400 basis point premium has gone to about 600. Investors now need to look at the case for income when the level of income in some of the other markets is so low.
So if property as a whole has some interesting income opportunities, what is particularly attractive about industrial? Henderson's Director of Property, Cameron Fraser, takes up the story.
I think one of the main points we wanted to get across today was the industrial attraction is, for the three sectors of real estate, it offers the highest income component. If you look at the retail sector, usually it's one retailer paying your rent of one unit. On an office like this, you may have 5 tenants paying their rent. On an industrial estate, you have 8 to 10 people paying that rent. So it's a very diversified from a range of industries actually paying that rent roll. So that's a real attraction, but it also offers the highest premium versus the other asset classes of really 400 to 500 basis points versus gilts, equities. For what we were talking about today was really starting yields of 8.5 to 9.75 entries on a net initial basis, but that really is delivering at a fund level be an 8% income return. So in today's environment, we believe that is very attractive.
Henderson is joining forces on the fund with Centurion Properties, an experienced manager of industrial assets. The group's CEO, Julian Ruth, thinks industrial property has an image problem.
The perception people have of industrial property is that it's mainly a manufacturing-based activity. So I think people perceive our tenants as being mucky, turn of the 18th, 19th century type old-fashioned businesses. In fact, those kind of occupiers, we certainly have an exposure to them, but the broad range of occupiers we have are much cleaner, white van man type activities. The curve is down. The cost of maintaining the buildings is low. There is simple construction, simple maintenance costs, and the void costs, if we do have a hole in the income, if a tenant does leave for some reason, we've got low rates, low maintenance costs while the building is empty. So the drag on the income stream is very limited.
Industrial property investment requires a good deal of commitment. The minimum investment in the Henderson Fund is £5 million, and the money is tied up for at least 5 years. But if a decent return is what is needed, Julian Ruth believes the sector is too good to ignore.
It's all about yield. We're in a low growth, low return environment. How can I outperform by buying a better income return investment? Industrial real estate has proved through the downturn it can offer investors resilient return, and if it's managed properly and bought sensibly off the right assumptions, it can outperform most other options in terms of income return.